Hi guys, Richard from Digital Foundry here with our take on Forza Motorsport 6 for Xbox One. In retrospect, Forza 5 was something of a technological miracle, bearing in mind a challenging Xbox One launch, characterised by rushed software and obvious technical challenges. For the most part, Turn 10 achieved a solid 1080p 60, an impressive achievement bearing in mind that most of the production occurred on unfinished hardware. Forza Motorsport 6 is an important release then. It demonstrates what one of the most talented first-party development teams can achieve with a clear 2-year run on final Xbox One hardware. And from a technological standpoint, the studio brings about some welcome additions to the engine, though the insistence on targeting a solid 60 FPS still comes with some compromises. However, one major takeaway is that the studio hasn't really thrown away much of the work it originally did on its predecessor. Turn 10 seems happy enough with the basic framework of the game, and the utilisation of technology here is all about delivering more content, more features. That being the case, basic image quality appears pretty similar to Forza 5, and in that respect jaggies and shimmering across sub-pixel elements and fine detail is commonplace across the scene. Forza 6 uses EQAA for anti-aliasing, a hardware technique built into the AMD graphics core. Essentially it's an alternative implementation similar to multi-sampling MSAA and suffers from many of the same flaws. Coverage is regularly disrupted by how shading and post-processing are implemented, and often it seems like there's little or no AA at all. Adjustments in the lighting model occasionally deliver a slightly cleaner image compared to Forza 5, but it's fair to say that the difference is minimal at best. That said, Turn 10 has managed to squeeze out yet more from the minuscule 16.67 millisecond render time available for each frame, resulting in a tangible increase in detail over Forza 5. A part of the revised look comes down to the new global illumination. The majority of the lighting is pre-baked, but we can see that in places there may well be additional light bounces burnt into the circuits. Tracks also see a liberal sprinkling of new detail. Sebring features the addition of fences erected on the sides of the track, while extra vehicles are seen in the background. Artistic alterations are made to some tracks in order to open up the landscape and better realise the level of detail on offer. So for example, the Prague circuit is an interesting example where rows of trees that overhang the road are removed in one section of the track, opening up the exquisite view of the historical architecture on show. There are other changes from an effects perspective too. The amount of alpha-based elements, such as dust and fog, has been increased over Forza 5, with more liberal use of rolling fog across the rocky valleys of the Burmese Alps and over the river in Prague. In other areas, shadow resolution and reflection quality mostly appears to be a close match for the older game, as does depth of field. But other changes are more subtle and indicate an upgrade in the simulation. For example, in this shot, as we drive into the tyres, we bounce right off them in Forza 5, while the new game sees the tyre wall react far more realistically to the impact. So what about the new stuff in Forza 6? Well, it's the wet weather and nighttime racing that obviously takes centre stage, and in these clips you can see the same car racing on the same track in all three conditions. You'll note that the wet weather racing is limited to the daytime only. Now it's fair to say that all of the new modes get the job done, but there's the sense that the implementation isn't quite as ambitious as it could have been. Wet weather is totally static, meaning that the conditions are identical from race to race, and from what we can see there's no real accumulation of water on the surface as the rain intensifies. Nighttime races are intriguing though, specifically in how limited light sources can fundamentally impact the gameplay. However, again, there's the sense that what we really need here is a full time of day implementation. Overall, it's a tired cliché, but there's very definitely the sense that Forza Motorsport 6 is the game its predecessor should have been. The key issue that users had with the last release concerned the tangible downgrade in the amount of cars and number of tracks compared to Forza 4. Turn 10 did well in expanding the game post-launch, but it's only with the sequel that we see the kind of comprehensiveness that we saw in Forza 4, and for many that in itself is enough to warrant the purchase. But from a technological perspective, there's something else here that impresses us. Namely a new level in refinement indicative of the confidence that comes from an accomplished developer now firmly at home with the Xbox One platform. There's the sense that the developer is pushing for the features that the fanbase wants, but certainly in the case of variable weather conditions and a full time of day simulation, we're looking at a fundamental shift in the underlying technology to get that absolutely right. And that's all we've got for now. Give us a like if you enjoyed the vid and subscribe to ensure that all Digital Foundry content is delivered to your feed. Thanks for watching.